and he was quite aware of microbes, and he was the one that understood that taking in fermented foods like yogurt made possible the prolongation of a healthy life, and he wrote this in his seminal work, The Prolongation of Life, which was published about 110 years ago. So the types of probiotics, most of the probiotics that are available to us are organisms that have been used in food and beverage production. So keep that in mind. That's why we have these. That's why the FDA left these on the market. Is that there has been a lot of experience, in many cases thousands of years of experience with these organisms. So they're generally divided into lactic acid bacteria, Lactobacillus species. Of course, some people would quibble about whether the bifidobacterium species should, strictly speaking, be called a lactic acid bacteria. Acetate is a more preferred end product for them, but many people love them. And Streptococcus pneumophilis, this is a traditional yogurt starter, highly adapted Streptococcus, not pathogenic. Enterococcus faecium, Lactococcus, Baconostoc, Pediococcus. These are all organisms that produce large amounts of lactic acid. Then there are the non-lactic acid bacteria. There's the bacillus species. These are often referred to as soil-based organisms. There's the Propionibacterium species, and there's E. coli Nitschla, a specific strain of E. coli isolated from a German soldier in 1917. Everyone else in the team died of dysentery. He survived, and the German physician Stuebing noted that it was probably because of his microbiota and isolated this particular E. coli. This is available, and there's some good evidence that it's beneficial in Crohn's disease, for example. And then the non-pathogenic yeast, Saccharomyces boulardii. Lactobacillus characteristics, these are gram-positive rods. They can also have a bacillary form. They don't make spores. Broadly divided into homofermentated, so 85% plus of their fermentation end product is lactic acid, or they're heterofermentated, so in addition to lactic acid, they also make carbon dioxide, ethanol, and acetic acid. They digest and metabolize proteins and carbohydrates, make B vitamins, vitamin K. They break down bile salts. They're intimately involved with modulating immune function, and they inhibit a variety of pro-inflammatory mediators. And clinical studies and animal studies over the years have shown that lactobacilli have active antimicrobial properties against a wide variety of pathogens, gram-positives, gram-negatives, and yeast. This is a list of probiotic lactobacilli that are generally available. I'm only going to discuss a few of them in detail. Lactobacillus acidophilus, this is the prototypic probiotic. So if anybody's ever heard of a probiotic, what they've heard of is Lactobacillus acidophilus. It's important to realize that a lot of strains that 20 years ago were classified as Lactobacillus acidophilus have since been reclassified, so that can be a little confusing when you look at the literature. Currently, it's thought that Lactobacillus acidophilus is a transient species, meaning that it's only going to be there if you're taking it in your diet. A lot of what used to be classified as endogenous Lactobacillus acidophilus has now been reclassified as like Lactobacillus salivarius or Lactobacillus gasseri. Lactobacillus is an obligate homofermentated organism. It never switches to heterofermentated. It has to make a lot of lactate, and it makes both isomers of lactic acid. It's very hardy, resistant to acid, bile, pepsin, and pancreatin. It has over 20 known peptidases, and it is shown to break down both casein and gluten, which are problematic polypeptides. Ferments lactose, and in fact, there's a literature on Lactobacillus acidophilus for lactose intolerance. And it can reduce concentrations of various carcinogenic enzymes, although the studies have yet to be done that show that probiotics can reduce the risk of colon cancer. Lactobacillus rhamnosus, this is probably the most studied probiotic. It's relatively fragile. It's much more susceptible to stomach acid. So it's generally transient, although people can isolate it in the gut. It's a heterofermentated, and it only makes the L-positive lactate isomer. It's got great colonic mucosal adherence, although that's done in vitro, and how relevant that is to in vivo, we don't know. It makes more peptidases than any other lactobacillus, and it enhances innate and acquired immunity. It antagonizes various pathogens like rotavirus, C. difficile, and E. coli. Lactobacillus casei is another adaptive probiotic closely related to rhamnosus, again, transient species. And one of the things that this has is a large number of proline-specific peptidases, and these are particularly useful in breaking down casein and gluten, because these are polypeptides that have a lot of proline in them. It also makes the L-positive, and only the L-positive form of lactic acid. And although it's transient, it's interesting in that its presence is required for differentiation, for normal differentiation of dendritic cells. So it's amazing. So you require this transient species for normal immune maturation. Lactobacillus plantarum, this is ubiquitous on plants. That's why there's a picture of vegetables here. Generally lacking in modern diet. So if you do stool cultures from people in Africa who are eating a traditional diet with a lot of fiber and legumes, they all have Lactobacillus plantarum. And humans have modern Western diet. People consuming modern Western diets have 25% of them have Lactobacillus plantarum if they're not taking it as a probiotic. Very hardy organism, resistant to bile and acid. It facilitates induction of IL-10. This is really important for T-cell regulatory function and decreasing both allergies and inflammation. And it strongly supports intestinal barrier function and reduces translocation with gut flora. The bifidobacterium, these are the second major class of probiotics, gram-positive. They don't make rods. They often have a Y shape to them, especially when they're stressed. That's why it's called bifidobacterium. They're strictly anaerobic and fastidious. The one exception there is Bifidobacterium lactis. They have a unique metabolic hexose pathway called the bifidus shunt. They all break down lactose. They ferment a variety of non-digestible oligosaccharides. And they synthesize B vitamins, vitamin K. Again, they're intimately involved with modulation of both innate and acquired immunity, and inhibit a variety of pro-inflammatory mediators, and inhibit a variety of different pathogens. And when you look at different disorders and disease states, what you will see over and over again is that disease or ill health is associated with reduced bifidobacterium populations, and robust bifidobacterium populations are associated with gut health and immune health. These are the major bifidobacterium probiotics, and we'll discuss some of them in a little more detail. So Bifidobacterium longum, this is often, so if you're fortunate enough to have a dominant Bifidobacterium microbiota, it's usually going to be the Bifidobacterium longum that's dominant. ferments a variety of oligosaccharides, like they all do, resistant to mild salts that is able to inhibit enterotoxigenic E. coli receptor binding, inhibits Clostridium proliferation, enhances GI secretory IgA response to dietary antigens, hence it reduces dietary allergies, and it modulates cytokine responses to respiratory antigens. And you might think, oh, well, how can it do that? But keep in mind the whole concept of the common mucosal immune system, so that if you have something going on in the gut associated with lymphatic tissue, that's going to affect immune tissue elsewhere in the body. There are smaller populations of this organism, found in organ. Infants populations of them tend to decline with age. Not how people speculate that reduced immune function increases susceptibility to disease in the elderly may be in part related to reduced bifidobacterium populations. Obviously, with its ability to suppress total antigen-specific IgE production, it's going to be protective against allergies. It enhances IgA response to Clostridium difficile antigen toxin A, rather, and it's been shown together with lactobacillus acidophilus to support a normal microbiota during antibiotic therapy and reduces testing for C. difficile toxin A. Bifidobacterium incensus, as you can deduce from the name, this is very frequent in infants, rare in adults. If you're a breastfed baby, your microbiota should have lots of bifidobacterium incensus. It's a good thing. It suppresses populations of Bacteroides vulgaris, reduces pro-inflammatory cytokine production, improves various cytokine ratios in irritable bowel syndrome, and together with acidophilus, acidophilus reduces the risk of necrotizing enterocolitis in very low birth weight infants. So, B. breve, Bifidobacterium breve, this has been shown to reduce the populations of pathogens, Bacteroides flagellis, and Clostridium perfringens. It improves weight gain in very low birth weight infants, stimulates higher capacity cell proliferation, and stimulates normal maturation of the gastrointestinal immune system. Relatively hardy organism, resistant to acid, bile, pepsin, and creatinine, and enhances T cell antibody production. In fact, there's some work that it improves the response to immunizations. It can antagonize rotavirus and decreases rotavirus shedding. Just to touch briefly on bacillus characteristics, these are frequently misbranded, misidentified organisms. So if you're going to use bacillus probiotics, be sure that it's from a reputable manufacturer. These are sporulating rods. These are facultative anaerobes. People used to think that any bacillus that was in the gut was just there because it was on a carrot that you consumed, or a potato, or whatever, that these were transient. Well, so it turns out that with some species, like Bacillus subtilis, there are more of them in the gut that you could assuage it simply by ingestion. So low levels of them are definitely commensal. And bacilli are commonly used in fermented fish and manioc and soy food. So, for example, Japanese food natto, that's produced by Bacillus subtilis. So there's evidence that they're useful in irritable bowel syndrome, the prevention of antibiotic-associated diarrhea. They can inhibit pathogens, they make bacteriocins and lipopeptides, and they definitely promote coloniocyte health. So there's a role for them, but they're frequently misbranded, so make sure you're getting them from a reputable company. These are some of the Bacillus probiotics that are used. Primarily Bacillus coagulans and Bacillus subtilis are the most important. Streptomophilus is a lactic acid bacteria. This is a traditional cheese and yogurt starter. It's highly adapted to living on lactose. It's transient. There's protocooperation with Lactobacillus bulgaricus, which is another yogurt starter. And it has a variety of different clinical uses, from rotavirus to improvement in ulcerative colitis and maintaining remission in ulcerative colitis and other inflammatory bowel diseases. And there's some evidence that it can provide protection from pathogenic Streptococcus species. Saccharomyces boulardii, this is this probiotic yeast, transient, non-pathogenic. It was discovered by a French mycologist, Boulard, who found it in Southeast Asia. People were brewing a tea from lychee nuts to treat dysentery, and he figured out that it was the Saccharomyces boulardii that was the active principle in these teas. This is a very hardy organism and does an amazing number of things. Increases cross-border enzyme activity. The D1 intervention is going to increase intestinal short-chain fatty acids and secretory IgA concentrations more than anything else that you can do. It has a powerful protease that inhibits Clostridium difficile toxins A and D, antagonizes Candida in the gut. And it's the one probiotic that has been shown to be effective, at least as an adjunct, against unicellular parasites like Entamoeba histolytica and Giardia. And there's actually one study that showed that it was just as good as metronidazole in treating blastocystis mollis. The probiotics, the documented uses of probiotics, there's a literature that supports the use. There are meta-analyses that supports the use. It's not really controversial. People can argue about the quality of the studies and that sort of thing, but there is a literature that supports the use in antibiotic-associated diarrhea, Clostridium-associated diarrhea. There is other diarrheas, community travelers that use in inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and vaginal dysbiosis, so Candida, vaginitis, and bacterial vaginosis. We've heard urinary tract infections in women, allergies, atopic dermatitis, eczema, lactose intolerance, hyperlipidemia. There are things that people are looking at now, like probiotics and weight loss, probiotics and blood sugar control, probiotics and depression, probiotics and anxiety. So there's a lot of the documented uses are standing for probiotics. Let's just look at some of these. So antibiotic-associated diarrhea, this is disrupted GI microbiota due to antibiotics. That's what this is due to. And so everybody with antibiotic-associated diarrhea, the common denominator here is that they have decreased colonic concentrations of short-chain fatty acids. Up to 50% of the cases are due to Clostridium difficile, but everybody's got decreased short-chain fatty acids. So basically the antibiotics are killing off the organisms that make short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, so acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And butyrate is, in particular, is important. It's nutritive to colonocytes. Colonocytes don't get this. They don't do what colonocytes do, which is absorb water, absorb salt, and so you get diarrhea. It's common, how common it is, depends on the series you look at, but it's common. So, children anywhere from 11 to 50%, adults 5 to 39%, take your pick, depends on the series, patient population, etc. And the definition is that of antibiotic-associated diarrhea pathway that takes place within 2 months after a course of antibiotics. Probiotics work. And so here's a large meta-analysis that was done by Lynn McFarland, and she looked at all of these different trials. And these are different probiotic preparations and formulas. So, for example, SV is Saccharomyces boulardii, LGG is Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, Bacillus coagulans, Bifidobacterium lactis, Enterococcus faecium. So all of these different Lactobacillus acidophilus. So all these different protocols. And what Lynn found was that out of 25 randomized clinical trials, that the overall risk reduction was 0.43. So that's a 57% reduction in the risk of antibiotic-associated diarrhea. So it's fairly profound. And probiotics should definitely be used when you're prescribing antibiotics. I just don't know why clinicians wouldn't do that. So in terms of what should be used, what the literature supports is Saccharomyces boulardii. So then the dose should be 10 billion CFU a day. And ultimately that should be combined with Lactobacillus rhamnosus, so 5 billion CFU a day. And I think it would be very advisable to use a multi-strain formula that also contains some bifidobacteria, because we saw some of these species antagonize Clostridium difficile and decrease its proliferation, that sort of thing. Also, one should consider using prebiotics, specifically inulin prebiotics, to increase short-chain fatty acid producing population. So we don't have Eubacterium and Rosiburia available to us as probiotics, but we can increase their populations and activity by giving people prebiotics. In general, I think you should use probiotics at the same time concomitantly with the antibiotics in order to minimize the effect of the antibiotic on the probiotic and to maximize survival of the probiotics that you take in. I suggest we'll take the probiotics an hour before or 2 hours after the antibiotic dose, and I've always suggested a 30-day total course of probiotics. So even though your antibiotic treatment may be a week or 10 days, I've always suggested a 30-day total treatment. Inflammatory bowel disease, so this includes Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and pouchitis. There are differences in these. Pouchitis is disease that's involving a portion of the ileum that's being used as a rectal pouch following surgery for, in almost all cases, ulcerative colitis. And we know that inflammatory bowel disease is due to an abnormal response to certain commensal bacteria. So that if you have no bacteria, or let's say, for example, you have rectal ulcerative colitis and the surgeon does an ileostomy to divert the flow of intestinal contents, you can treat the disease by decreasing exposure to intestinal contents and commensal bacteria. People with inflammatory bowel disease have high numbers of Bacteroides, Enterobacteriaceae, and Streptococcus, and you guessed it, low numbers of Bifidobacteria. Really, I have to say, the animal models, it seems like probiotics should just be gangbusters. So here you have this rat model of inflammatory bowel disease, this HLA-D27 transgenic rat, and if you raise it germ-free, so there's no intestinal microbiota, the rat does not get colitis. But when you introduce fecal bacteria into the rat, you get a very, very aggressive colitis. So there's this interaction with this genetic predisposition and the presence of fecal bacteria. If you introduce, remember, these are notobiotic organisms, so you have control over what you are introducing. You know what is in the gut. So if you put in just Bacteroides vulgaris, you get colitis. So that's one of the things that's in the fecal mix that's giving you colitis. But it's not as bad as everything that's in there, so it's just one thing. If you introduce E. coli, so this aerobic Enterobacter ACI, there's no colitis. So we know that that's not the problem. If you introduce Lactobacillus rhamnosus plus fecal bacteria, you completely protect this rat from getting colitis. So probiotics should just be wonderful, but they've been disappointing. And so here are studies that are looking at probiotics in Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis and pouchitis. And with the exception of pouchitis, for which gastroenterologists say that the evidence is good to use probiotics, most of these studies are negative. What about that? Well, some of this is study design. So for example, if you look at this study, so here's treatment of Crohn's disease using S. boulardii. So you're using S. boulardii as an adjunct. So the standard therapy, mesalamine 3 grams a day versus mesalamine 2 grams a day in S. boulardii. And the number of clinical relapses was significantly less. So it's the appropriate endpoint being studied. So probiotics probably don't have a big role in treating acute flares, but they clearly, I think, have a role in keeping people in remission. Now, here's a study of people with Crohn's disease in remission, and so this is involving a preparation called DSL-3, which is simply a multi-species high-potency probiotic based around Streptococcus thermophilus. And here you see that this is a study that shows probiotics don't work, right? But there's only 40 patients. There was a 50% reduction in relapses, but the numbers were not significant. So is this 50% reduction not real? It's just by chance, or was it not significant because this is an underpowered study, probably an underpowered study? That's the problem with probiotic studies. Is they often have too